Super Rugby Saturday games, folks. A couple of big wins over here in NZ and then a really tight one over in Canberra. We'll go through some key events, some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how the three games went this Saturday. Chiefs over the Force, 54-21. That's a big old scoreline. The game was never really in doubt. I think the Chiefs, on the back of a Quinn Tupaia hat-trick, they looked the business, didn't they? The Force, they really struggled for any field position, especially in that first half. They got 3 tries, which is a bit of a bright spot. I mean, it's a better result than last week, but ultimately, if you're a Force fan, that's a bit of a hiding. And concerningly, for a New Zealand rugby perspective, is the fact that Sam Cane went off injured pretty early in this one as well, which is like I said, not ideal. But Sam Cane goes off injured. Tupaia gets a hat-trick, as I said. He's got some big ball carries, that man. He is such a powerful unit. His defensive numbers this year haven't been fantastic, but there's no questioning his ability. Ball in hand. Ross gets one, Trask gets one, Va'i gets one, Tokiaho gets a couple from the bench. Real power up front. 7 conversions. Gatlin ran the show pretty well, I think you'd have to say. The Force, they did get a much-needed try through former Chiefs man Pulu on 32 minutes, which at least made it like 21-7 before halftime. At least that wasn't a kind of total blowout. Remember, the crowd for this one's not that flash. I mean, you're not really seeing any away fans in the Trans-Tasman matches, so that doesn't help. But Thrush and McDonald. McDonald looked pretty good when he came on. If you're looking for a bright spark, from a Force point of view, it's McDonald coming off the bench and adding a wee bit of zip. But ultimately, I mean, this game is pretty lopsided. Six clean breaks to 2. The Chiefs tackle at 91%. I mean, the Force are at 84, but you still concede 50 points. It's not a good look. Run meters 716 to 548. So pretty free-flowing stuff at times. Easy on the eye, if not any tension in the result. Tupaia, 6 defenders beaten, 63 run meters. Gatland, a couple of try assists, runs 106 run meters of his own, beats 5 defenders, so not a bad way to return. Anstey in a defensive shift for the Force, 18 from 18 tackles, but as I said, ultimately, not a lot doing for the Force in this one. The Chiefs are away to the Drua in Fiji next, which is always going to be fun because you saw the crowd that we got in that first match over in Fiji when the Highlanders travelled there, so that'll be interesting next Saturday. The Force have got to go and double down with 2 games next week. The first one's on the Tuesday against Moana Pacifica, so that's kind of the next cab off the rank for them. It'll be interesting to see what kind of team they decide to field for that one, but they'll certainly be backing themselves to give the Moana Pacifica boys a run for their money. The next one, the Hurricanes and the Rebels, it's kind of a similar story to the first one, isn't it? It's not that different a scoreline. 45-22. The Rebels scored 1 more than the Force. The Hurricanes scored 9 fewer than the Chiefs, but it's, for all intents and purposes, pretty similar result. I mean, Julian Savia, the bus, gets a try within like 2-3 minutes from a line-out move, and the line-out moves were just killer from the Hurricanes at the start of this game. They were absolutely ruthless. Their first phase set play, the Rebels just didn't have any answers for it, so it was pretty brutal. And kind of like the Chiefs game, there was a key injury early, but this time it was for the Rebels with Reece Hodge going off injured pretty early. But the guy who comes on to replace him, Ripley, gets 3 tries, so not a bad way to come off the bench and score a hat-trick. But when your team concedes, how many tries is it? I don't even know. It's kind of not worth all that much, is it? But yeah, like I said, Canes from set play, absolutely lethal. Give credit to the Rebels when they finally did get down the Hurricanes end. They did score some points, but I don't know, man. It was Savia, Proctor, Gibson, Blackwell. I mean, Gibson's one was just kind of power from nowhere. Miley, who I don't think even was supposed to be in the team, he was a late replacement. Tongan international, the hooker, he gets one where he reaches out. Geordie gets one where he shows a bit of midfield power, which is what he'll need to have if he's going to push for a career in the midfield, I guess. Morgan gets one. That guy's got absolute wheels, so I don't know, man. I mean, the Rebels scored first in the second half to maybe make a game on 26-15, but it didn't take long for the Hurricanes to bounce back. So, yeah, Blackwell got one. I mean, honestly, it was, Run meters 820 to 436. Like I mentioned, pretty lopsided. Tackling percentage, 89% for the Canes, 82% for the Rebels. The Rebels still do fall off too many tackles. Like 82 doesn't seem that bad, but like 80 is like kind of minimum poor. Like 85 is probably normal. Teams that are getting above 90% are doing really well. The Rebels are always high 70s, low 80s. So turnovers conceded 14-8. So the Canes will be a little bit disappointed. They maybe coughed up a little bit too much ball. Julian Savia, 136 run meters, 5 defenders beaten, 3 clean breaks. Not bad. Wilkin, defensive effort, 18 from 18 tackles. But yeah, like I mentioned, not much doing for the Rebels. They are home to the Highlanders in that final round. The Hurricanes will go away to the Force. Remember, the Force will be playing their second game that week. So the Hurricanes will be over there with a bit of optimism. The final one, the Brumbies and Blues, ends with an absolute cliffhanger. But to be honest, if you watch the game itself, it was a tough old watch. It ends with a bit of glory, pandemonium. Both sides thinking they've won it. But the preceding 70 minutes was tough. It was a lot of scrums, a lot of resets, taking bloody ages to get that stuff sorted. If you watch this game, you'll know what I mean. I mean, the Brumbies started with a try, Samu, on Blues' loose line-out ball from their own kind of 6 meters out. And then the Blues answering with a penalty, so 7-3. Blues get held up 3 times. It's kind of, just unable to kind of convert the pressure. The Brumbies are clearly focusing on the breakdown, and the Blues didn't really have an answer to it apart from the referee blowing it up sometimes. A lot. The Brumbies conceded a lot of penalties, but they were just flooding the breakdown and slowing the Blues ball down. Because, if there's one thing you've seen about this Blues side, when they get quick ball, they're absolutely deadly. So the Brumbies didn't let them get any quick ball, and they did it really well. The Blues didn't, as I said, have really many answers for it at the breakdown, but sometimes the Brumbies would push it too far and just get pinged. So, the Brumbies paid for it with a couple of yellow cards. But do you think the Blues could convert with 2 men over? They really struggled. They couldn't. They managed to get 1 try before half time, when I think it was 1 yellow card had already finished. So maybe it was back to 15 on 15. So it goes into 8-7 at half time. Run meters, the Blues have had 300 to 60 at half time. It's crazy. The Blues have had 72% possession and 70% territory. They've been all over it. The Brumbies have had to make 108 tackles to 39. But like I said, the Blues are just their attacks looking stifled. The Brumbies are able to shut them down really well. This was not looking like the side that played last week, the Blues, when they were just clinical. The Blues were looking all at sea against this Brumbies defence. But Roger Tuivasa-Sheck looked pretty tidy. He was having some good ball carries, if nothing else. And the Brumbies maul was just dead. I don't know how many times the Brumbies went into the Blues 22, but it felt like every time they did it, they came away with points. Second half, Fainga'a gets a try. It's just the Blues just can't defend it. Both sides missed some kind of simple goal kicks. Perofeta and Lolosio both missed. One of Lolosio's conversions, in the scheme of things, pretty costly. Perofeta, a conversion and 1 penalty, also went awry, which was a little bit concerning because none of those were really hard kicks. Lolosio did kick the clutch one to put the Brumbies in front, which was very similar to the one he missed. Tuna Kwafe got a try for the Blues on 67, which was pretty much straight out in front, so the Blues couldn't miss that conversion, but they took a penalty with 6 minutes to go to make it 18-12 the Blues, and then Fainga'a goes over for a maul try down the other end, and Nolosio knocks over the conversion with a minute to play. So I'm thinking, the Blues have lost this because they didn't back themselves to score a try on the Brumbies end, which is kind of fair enough because the Blues have struggled to get any tries in this game. But yeah, the Brumbies managed to secure the restart, and they can't kill the clock for a minute. They managed to lose the ball. There's a few moments that both teams would look back on if they'd lost it that could have been costly. The Blues, obviously, a couple of missed kicks. Not being able to stop the Brumbies maul would have been crucial. For the Brumbies, it's also a missed conversion. For the Blues, it would have been also not capitalising on the yellow cards. But for the Brumbies not being able to run down just 1 minute on the clock, man. You got to be able to run down 1 minute. But they couldn't do it. The Blues have an attack. Eventually, they concede a penalty. The Brumbies, they're not finally flooding the breakdown because they're being careful. They do decide to pounce on one. I had to look back at it because I wanted to see, because it looked initially to me like the Brumbies had got their hands on it, but you hear the ref say hands away before he gives away the penalty, and it looks like the Brumbies guy's kind of leaning off balance a wee bit, so maybe that's my Blues bias, but the ref, before he blows the whistle to penalise, it clearly says hands away. If the ref says hands away, even if he's wrong, you still got to do what he says. But I mean, as I said, it looks like he's on his tippy toes anyway, so maybe not in charge of his, well, not in control of his full body weight. So either way, with the advantage, Bodie slots the droppy and the Blues steal it at the death, man. So it's a crazy, crazy finish. But yeah, either side could have won that really. The Brumbies with all their defence. The Blues with all their possession. So, yeah, droppy at the death. Interestingly, Alatoa at the end of the game in the post-match interview, when admittedly tensions are running high, said he expects an apology from the referees or the officials in midweek. I don't know, man. I don't know. As I said, it was definitely a Brumbies tactic to put pressure on at the breakdown, and it seemed like sometimes they got pinged for it. But yeah, if you're just looking at the penalty count, you'd feel hard done by if you're a Brumbies fan. Run beaters 279 to 596. Possession Blues 63%. Territory Blues 69%. Penalties conceded a 16-5. So the Brumbies did get pinged, a couple of yellow cards. Brumbies had to make 213 tackles to 102. Brumbies tackle at 85%. The Blues are at 94. So the Blues, apart from a couple of mauls and a gimme, were pretty hard to break down, to be fair. But the Brumbies just didn't have that much ball, eh? Alatoa makes 19 out of 20 tackles. Good shift from him. Clark looked sharp. Tui Vasashek looked sharp. 5 defenders beaten each. Bodie, 6 defenders beaten. A try, a droppy. I think without him, the Blues would be kind of doomed to failure. But that was maybe a good one for my Blues, and maybe for the Brumbies as well, because that's the kind of tough game that you need going into the playoffs, eh? So, yeah, Brumbies are away to Moana Pacifica next, and the Blues are away to the Waratahs. So both will be looking to finish the season on a high. So there you go, folks. 3 Saturday games. We still await the Sunday game, which could be a bit of an interesting one. But until then, you guys let me know your thoughts on the games. Chiefs and Canes looking pretty good. Rebels and Force, their seasons are pretty much done. And Blues, lucky. Brumbies, hard done by. Or Blues, deserved winners. And Brumbies, close but no cigar. You guys let me know what your thoughts are. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. Together.